Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and this video is going to be another long one, and I think you'll be glad you watched it. The first thing that I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go through a little bit of the news. There's some really good news about Ripple and different things. But then the second part of this video, and you're going to be glad you stuck around to watch, I'm going to show you basically three things. The first thing is I'm going to talk more about the NSA, Bilderberg, how I think that all of this stuff ties into Ripple, and I've told you I think that Ripple was either government commissioned or the government got involved somewhere in the early days of Ripple. And there's not a doubt in my mind on this. But secondly, I'm going to show you in their own words, I'm going to show you how Ripple from day one has been completely honest with everyone. They've been completely upfront. Now, you may have had to piece everything together yourself, but they've told you this is not some big secret, and that's part of the reason I'm willing to talk about it. This is not, the things I'm talking about are not secrets if you're paying attention and if you're looking. Now, the third thing I want to talk to you about in this video is how all of this, and I'm going to finish it by showing you how XRP stands to change so many lives for the better, and how all this, what it all means for you. And that is probably the most important part of the video, and I'm going to do that at the end. And I've got some new video from yesterday that I'm going to show you that drives that point home. But first, those of you that are in the stock market, if you would like to see the number one reason that I've probably ever seen in the history of the stock market for why you should sell your stocks and be out of the stock market, here is your bearish signal. The CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, they're not saying heart attack, but I think he had a heart attack yesterday. So the question, I'm sorry, so once again, my earphones went out. These are wireless earphones. But anyway, well, as I was saying, the question is, what kind of stress must Jamie Dimon be under? They said he woke up with chest pains. When this guy is nervous, the markets might want to get nervous. And heart attacks, as we all know, can be one of the number one causes, can be stress related. Let me tell you what, there's some stress going on. I'm looking at the opening bell right now, or the pre-market right now. It's 19 minutes till the market opens. And right now, let me see what these futures say. I'm waiting for the screen to flip here. I think it's showing around the pre-market is minus 760 on the Dow. All right, moving along. We got a lot of video to cover. The first thing I want to give two shout outs. The first is you need to go watch this video from Mr. B XRP and help him cross the 10,000 subscriber mark. He's at 9.81 thousand. Go give him a subscribe. And he's got a good video here. Why is Mr. B all in on Ripple and XRP? Go check that video out and give him a subscribe. Also, at 10 o'clock today, Cryptopolis. I actually got to meet Cryptopolis when I was in Las Vegas. This guy is smart. He has started doing live streams. Today at 10, he's going to be doing a live stream with Brad Combs. These guys have some really good chemistry together, and you can really learn a lot. And go give Cryptopolis a subscribe as well. He's got 2.19. He's just getting started. This guy should have a lot of subscribers in no time. All right. Now, let's get into it. The first thing I would like to show you, this was from XRP Crypto. Wolf Ripple had tweeted this out yesterday. Bitso is the largest cryptocurrency exchange in Latin America because of their partnership with Ripple. They're looking to expand to more popular corridors with Ripple's on-demand liquidity for Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, and U.S., Peru in 2020. There is a video that goes with this that you need to see. So I'm going to show it to you now.
I'm Barbara Gonzalez Briseño, and I'm the head of finance at Bitso. Bitso is the largest exchange in Latin America, and we have the largest liquidity in Mexican pesos in the world. Bitso started 5 years ago, where the founders really tried to envision a world where crypto could be useful. In Latin America, we have a different dynamic with the financial system, where we have an underbanked population that doesn't have ease of access. And the vision that they thought for themselves was, how can we really make crypto useful? So they started very early on in a partnership with Ripple, trying to figure out how they would actually find all these use cases for the technology and bring them to the people of the region. We have been partners with Ripple for a long time, trying to actually build this first use case of digital asset technology. And we're at a point where we're, with on-demand liquidity, or ODL, we're actually starting to see the first real use case of what the vision and the dream was at the first place. On-demand liquidity, as we like to see it, is a way of bringing cross-border payments or remittances using the digital asset technology, in this case XRP, without having to go through a financial system. So a clear example is, I'm the head of finance. I usually have to bring money from the US into Mexico from my bank account. And instead of going through a wire transfer and going to the bank and calling someone to help me fix all the different details and waiting for 5 days, I can use ODL, where the dollars turn into XRPs. XRPs are sent into Bitso, and they're immediately exchanged for Mexican pesos. So in the span of less than a minute, I have my money in the treasury, and at a rate that was more beneficial for me and a cost-effective transaction. So it's actually a solution that, for me as a consumer, has been amazing, but has also is this solution that we're offering to all of our customers, partnering with Ripple and trying to take over the remittance corridor from the US and Mexico. I think partners that are using ODL, especially in our corridor, are partners that might as well be using that corridor already, but the settlement process is much more immediate, and the cost effectiveness of that. We usually tend to see that a transaction, as we're seeing through ODL, used to cost more than 5 times what it's actually costing them right now. So I think that it's one amazing advantage of the product. But another one is the settlement, which is almost immediate, which you don't see by no means in the traditional financial system and how it has operated for many, many years. Ripple plays an enormous part on that customer front with the partners that are actually sending the cross-border payments and remittances. But we have seen adoption, and we have seen adoption not only from players that are already in the space and that we're very easily to onboard, but we're also seeing adoption from players like MoneyGram, who were very traditional players who were doing things a very different way, and that are now one of the most important partners for us. One of the things that we have always loved about working with Ripple is that we understand where we want to get to collectively, and we want to do it the same way, a very similar way. I think we all dream about changing how payments are done in the region and the world, how we can interact with each other, and the use case that the technology can bring, enabling those use cases. That's actually something that was and has been key for us to actually strengthen our relationship together with Ripple and keep on working in ways to actually go further and keep on looking for different avenues to benefit the final customer.
You're watching the world change right before your eyes, folks. And as I go through this video, not quite yet, I'm still going through the news, but when I get to this, I want you to understand that what Ripple has told the truth from day one. All I'm doing at this point for you is I'm putting all those puzzle pieces together. And once you, it's like one of those things that once you see, you can't unsee. That's where the digital asset investor is today. And I was talking to someone on the phone just the other day. They said, look, Ripple has never lied to you. They've told you the truth from day one. It's just that something like this, that is such a massive thing, you can't, Your mind does not want to accept what this really is because it's never happened before. But they've told you, and that's what I'm trying to make an attempt to do, is to really put this puzzle piece together for the people that are listening to me, because I don't want you to be one of those people that after the fact is seeing the videos of Brad Garlinghouse and of David Schwartz and hearing what they're saying, and I want you to hear it now instead of hearing it after the fact, because I think it's a life changer. That's kind of what this video is about. All right, didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but that thought was in my mind while I was watching that video. Okay, XRP Crypto Wolf, no part of MoneyGram has been left untouched by our digital transformation, as we've worked tirelessly to build a modern, mobile, and API-driven platform and expand our direct-to-consumer digital capabilities, to over 67 countries. And then the Ian Northing sent me this. Wait for it, all for one, one for all. Ripple's partner MoneyGram joins forces with Amazon and Google. MoneyGram continues its digital transformation by implementing a multi-cloud strategy together with Google Cloud and Amazon Web Services. Keep paying attention, folks. Another one from XRP Crypto Wolf. RippleNet partner FX, I think this is Flash FX. Flash FX, and new CEO. Let me get his name right. Andrew Porter will accelerate the company's aggressive international growth plans. They envision Flash FX becoming the go-to solution as an inbound Australian dollar payment gateway for global institutions. And then we have Brian Melancholy sent me this. Dilip Rao weighed in, who's the recently retired Ripple employee. RippleNet payments pioneer Flash FX is opening the door for inward payments into Australia. Outward can't be far behind. Good move to scale with OFX, which is this is OFX company veteran on board. I guess he used to work at OFX. All right, FX. Don't forget that. Don't forget those two letters. FX. $5.1 trillion a day is moved around the world. I think that's the right number. Is moved around the world daily in FX. All right, next from the crypto utility guy. Sent me this. This is, now folks, there's two things that I'm excited about beyond XRP, and those are the tokenization of assets, specifically real estate. I am really looking forward to, this is how I see my life unfolding in the next few years. First, XRP, and I believe it's 2020, like as in the year of the digital asset 2020. Second, I believe I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing charity work and investing. And one of the places I'm going to be investing is in the tokenization of real estate. And the third thing I think is going to be a major part of this, I'm already participating, is what iTrustCapital is doing, which is to go to have an IRA with digital assets in it so that you have the tax advantages. My Roth IRA with iTrustCapital is tax-free growth. It's tax-free. I'm never going to pay taxes on the investments that are in there. I don't pay taxes on the buys and sells inside of the Roth IRA, and I won't pay taxes when it comes out. That is a huge deal. Now, and by the way, just so you know, you can go in the description of all my videos, and there's a coupon code in there. If you're listening now, there's a coupon code where you can get a month free with iTrustCapital, and there's links to their website as well as an interview I did with the guy, so you can find more about how you can set one up. But back to the point, this Polymath says commercial real estate has always been a prime candidate for tokenization. Deals are slow moving with a small number of participants. Secondary trading of fractional ownership is sparse or non-existent, and expensive capital distributions occur often. And so these guys, there's an article here on Medium called Polymath and the Future of Real Estate. What they're talking about, folks, is the world we're going off into. Imagine a world, and I've used several examples, but let's just say, for example, that France decides that they want to raise money and they're going to tokenize the Eiffel Tower. And maybe that's a bad example. Who cares? Well, what this means is all of a sudden, people who are admirers of the Eiffel Tower, all of a sudden, instead of having to go to France and figure out how you would invest in the Eiffel Tower, they will be able to buy tokens that represent physical ownership in that Eiffel Tower. Can you imagine the world that we go off into when that is, you're able to invest in things all over the world? Can you imagine the liquidity that opens up, and how much easier it becomes to invest in these types of things? That is what I'm excited about post XRP. Once it all goes down, that's where I'll be looking next. That may be if I continue the channel after that, that may be where the direction I go in. I haven't decided. It's either going to be that or lifestyles of the digitally rich and famous. Okay. Now, here we go. This right here, I got to give a major shout out first and tell you where we've been, where I was, and where I am now. Okay. This shout out first goes to Love for Crypto. What I'm showing you right now, what you're looking at might be, it's called Ripple XRP, the master plan. Get ready for a new one world currency. This is from Love for Crypto. Go give him a subscribe. If you do nothing this weekend other than spend your time and watch this guy's video, it's from September 26, 2018. I want you to do it. I believe this was Curtis from Love for Crypto. This guy, in my opinion, from what I remember, this guy called everything before anybody did. And I was talking to someone and they told me, I believe he's a refrigerator mechanic from the UK. And this guy is a freaking genius. Now, let me tell you where I was now, first of all, I started in this in 2013. I didn't realize that Ripple, that this was all what I thought it was, or partially what I thought it was, until 2017. From 2017 through 2018 and through 2019, all of that time, or most of that time, I was just covering the news about Ripple and covering the news about XRP. And I thought that Ripple was this great company that was at the forefront of the digital asset industry. There were people like Curtis and Love for Crypto, and there's several of them. I mean, SPQR Media. There was a lady I'll show you in a minute. I think it's a lady. I don't know. Rachel Lee. There were a lot of people, and look, I may forget some people, but I'm not trying to name everybody. But those are just some that I remember off the top of my head. There was a lot of people that were on Twitter and on YouTube, and they were talking about these things. I avoided those I'll admit to you, I avoided those conversations back then for the most part because I wasn't totally convinced. Well, now it's 2020 and I'm convinced. There's not a question in my mind. This all has come together in my mind, and maybe it took me longer than some of these people. I think Sam I Am was another one who has To the Lifeboats channel. A lot of these people had pieced all of these things together, and maybe who knows, maybe I'm just slow, but listen, I have now, this has all come together in my mind. I've told you on this channel, when I'm asleep at night, things are now popping into my head, things that it might be something someone said from 2018. It's all coming together in my mind. You know, and I think I said this earlier in the video. Sometimes, folks, in life, when something has never happened, you tend to, oh, well, that's conspiracy and that's this, and you tend to disbelieve. And I believe that's kind of where I was in 2018 with some of this stuff. But let me tell you what, you see enough, and at some point, enough's enough, okay? At some point, the obvious is standing right in front of you. And one of my aha moments was this week in the video. I'll keep showing this video till the end of this channel because you need to see it, and I'm going to keep showing you, okay? But these guys like Love for Crypto, they were on it, okay? And I'm telling you, I was one of the people that was a little bit in denial, but I have seen enough. I've been to swell. A part of me believes that the reason that the XRP people were invited to swell was just to see firsthand people that were in those rooms. And I saw. And Ripple did not say anything to me that led me to what I'm telling you today. They didn't say anything. They couldn't say it if they wanted to. I mean, these guys are, if I'm right, which I'm positive I'm right at this point, but if I am, then they're under NDAs out the wazoo between who knows who. This is all just a culmination of where I've been led. And I'm telling you now because I think that it is your opportunity. I think it is a once in the history of the financial world opportunity to have a shot at something that is going to completely change the world. So listen up and listen good. What I'm going to play you is a couple of clips. Now listen, I want to say this again. What I've done here is I'm going to show you what many who are going to hear this as it's playing, oh, that's conspiracy and da 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 da. Because there is a CIA guy who is a whistleblower guy that I'm about to show you that's in this video. Okay, this is a guy, and let me show you who he is. This is a guy named Kevin Shipp. He's a retired CIA spook, and he's a whistleblower. Yes, on the surface, that's all conspiratorial. I get it. Okay. If you had put this in front of me in 2018, I would have said the same thing to you. And these people they were going out on limbs back then, okay? But they deserve the credit that's due. Career right here. Kevin Shipp, former CIA officer and anti-terrorism expert, held several high-level positions in the CIA. He was assigned as a protective agent for the Director of Central Intelligence, a counterintelligence investigator, team leader protecting sensitive CIA assets from assassination, manager of high-risk counterterrorism center, protective operations lead instructor for members of the allied governments, internal staff, security investigator, and polygram examiner tasked with protecting the CIA from foreign agent penetration. He is the recipient of 2 CIA Meritorious Unit citations, 3 Exceptional Performance Awards, a medallion for overseas covert operations. Shipp also supervised the Department of State Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program and managed the protective detail assigned of the President of Afghanistan following the U.S. invasion. Now, folks, as you listen to what I'm about to play for you, I want you to, this is about, I think it's a good solid 4 minutes of video. But as I play it for you, and this is from Love for Crypto's video that I want you to watch this weekend. But as I play this for you, I want you to be thinking about a couple of things. Think about all the people that you've seen Ripple in the room with. Think about what you heard the other day. And at the end of this, I'm going to show you Ripple in their own words. And it should all come together in your mind the way it's come together in my mind. And Ripple has told you the truth from the beginning. So here's the piece of video. And the other thing that I want you to be thinking as you see this is, now none of us are under the belief that the world is not run and there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we can't know about and we will not be let to be known about. And that's okay. I mean, that's the world we live in. That's not something to be scared of for me. That's something that it just is the way the world is. You'll always have spies. You'll always have all that stuff. It's always going to be a part of things. So I don't look at it as some horrible thing. All right, I'm going to start this video now. It's about 4 minutes, and it's a real eye-opener. And pay very close attention. Watch what all this guy ties in.
So, without further ado,
the shadow government and the deep state are not the same thing. You hear people say this, well, the deep state is after Donald Trump because they're holdovers from the Obama administration that are penetrators into the CIA and others. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a smokescreen. I'll show you that the shadow government is not leftover Obama people. It is a matrix system that has functioned across every single administration going back to JFK, Republican and Democrats alike. So the shadow government is the secret part of government. The CIA, the NSA, and I'll show you a host of other secret intelligence agencies that are part of the shadow government. It functions through the unbridled, unconstitutional power of secrecy. That's the shadow government. Beneath the shadow government is what you hear a lot of talk about. It's called the deep state. Now, the deep state is this massive financial, multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar matrix that includes the military-industrial complex all of you probably have heard about. I'll shed a little bit more light on that. The deep state functions in the same matrix connected to the shadow government, but much of the time the shadow government rules the deep state through the power of secrecy, secrecy agreements, the state secrets privilege, and other things. So they are intimately connected in running our government behind the scenes. They manipulate our elected government behind the scenes. Now that is a dramatic statement. I think by the end of tonight, I'm going to prove to you that it's going on. I saw it personally. There's a lot of things I can't talk about. I have to watch everything I say, honestly. For the last 15 years, they've just been waiting for me to make one mistake. I haven't made it yet. So let's talk about this, the shadow government and the deep state. Deep state is run by money, power.
Hey, now, while you're listening to this, I want to make sure you understand, I am not telling you that Ripple is deep state. What I want you to understand is some of the organizations. I want you to understand some of the organizations that are involved. And at the end of this, the only reason I'm showing you the whole thing, I'm not trying to do a video on shadow government and all that. I want to show you this whole thing because he lays out a lot of important government agencies that I believe were involved in digital currencies from the very beginning. And at the very end of this video, he specifically says it. And that's why we're listening to this. I just didn't want you to think that I'm like, oh, this is shadow government and that's what Ripple is. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it was put together and or the government got involved at some point. And also I wanted to show it to let you know that he actually talks about digital currencies at the end. You watch.
Power and greed. That's what runs the deep state. The shadow government, their fuel is fear and intimidation. Here's the shadow or secret government, the unconstitutional power of government secrecy. I'm going to show you the components of the secret government, many of them that function outside the Constitution. The Director of National Intelligence has 17 intelligence agencies underneath him at this point that process 90 to 100,000 bits of classified information a day, some of which should not be classified. You've got the Department of Homeland Security, secret agencies there. You've got the Department of State. Hillary Clinton ran guns in Benghazi secretly using Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Most people don't know that. She did it through the secret system. You got the Defense Intelligence Agency that engaged in the torture program. Some people died. They also tried to recruit American citizens to be informants within the United States. I mean, this is, folks, this is an 8-hour lecture, so I'm going to have to pack some of this in there because there's just so much here. But anyway, you got the National Reconnaissance Office that runs the satellite program, all the birds that are up there, and there is a bunch of them. You have the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the big secret agency that worked with Google through a big contract and set up Google Earth. So Google worked with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency through CIA Incubation.
Google is also an investor in Ripple through their Google Ventures, by the way.
To set up Google Earth. So you think it's only Google watching you? It's not. Sadly, Silicon Valley has been recruited by the shadow government. Let's move. JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. Most people don't know about it, but this is the president's secret army. The president of the United States has his own secret army, special operators that he sends on presidential order into foreign countries in secret to engage in killings, overturning governments, and things that the American people don't know about. It's a secret force. Then you've got the FBI conducting warrantless searches, national security letters where they come into your business and order your supervisor to turn over all of your financial records, and if he or she says anything about them being there, they put your supervisor in jail. Violation of the Fourth Amendment. Now, I'm going to talk specifically tonight, because this is so vast, about the two, I consider the two.
All right, the NSA just popped up.
Top tiers of what I call the shadow government or the secret government. The first of that is the National Security Agency. Heard a lot about them, haven't we? I'm working with William Binney, the NSA whistleblower who blew the whistle on the NSA surveillance program. House raided by a SWAT team, a gun put to his head. We'll talk about the NSA a little bit. I'm going to focus on.
Now, I want to make one more point while we're in this. Listen, this guy is presenting the government as if it's all bad. That is not the angle that I'm coming from with all of this as far as Ripple goes. I'm telling you that Ripple is for good. And you can, yeah, we know that there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes in government, but I believe some of it's probably bad, but a lot of it is for good. I believe Ripple is one of the things that's for good. And that's an important thing to take out of this. He's presenting the information. I want you to see how this whole web works, but I don't want you to get out of this that it's all some evil thing. That's not the way I see this at all. I mean, shoot, I've met the people at Ripple. These are not evil people. These are good people, and the government can do good just like they can do bad.
On what I call the central node of the shadow government, an unconstitutional agency that used to be my life. And I was a senior managing supervisor there in counterintelligence and other things I'll talk about later. It is this one right here. That is the node, the central node of the shadow government, functions outside the Constitution through the power of secrecy, and not even Congress knows everything that it's doing. Is there a constitutional problem with that? You better believe there is. I'll show you exactly how bad that is. The CIA was created through the Council on Foreign Relations, which started back in 1921. They were instrumental in creating the CIA. The CFR was, and back when the CFR created the CIA, they were tied directly into guess who? The mainstream media. The owners.
Here's an interesting point too. Notice since 2000, for 2 years now, we've listened to the mainstream media, the Bloombergs, the Forbes. We've listened to them talk down crypto while we knew all the institutional numbers were showing that over the counter, the institutions were buying all of this stuff. That's important too.
Members of the Washington Post, the Grahams, were members, ranking members of the Council on Foreign Relations. The CIA was feeding information directly into the Washington Post. Philip and Catherine Graham were publishing stories that the CIA had told them to study. Now, in the long, wonderful history of the Washington Post, who owns the Washington Post now? Jeff Bezos of Amazon. What did he just do? He entered into a $6 million contract with guess who? The CIA. So the circle continues. I could spend an hour on the mainstream media's connection to intelligence. Sadly, we don't have that time. But just understand that the CFR was instrumental in creating the CIA. They were directly connected to the mainstream media, and the Washington Post, New York Times, CBS, and others that were feeding information directly to the CIA to be published to alter the opinions of the American people. Okay, we'll just leave that there for now. The deep state, let's talk about what makes up the deep state. Underneath, if you can see, I put the deep state underneath the shadow government, because the shadow government is this powerful monolith outside the Constitution. Much of the deep state, the military-industrial complex, is not violating the Constitution, but they are controlling our elected officials. Okay, so there's a little bit difference, but they are connected pretty intimately. In that, you've got the military-industrial complex. Everybody's heard about that probably. What you haven't heard is Eisenhower originally called it the military-industrial congressional complex, because Congress is tied in so deeply with the military-industrial complex and the deep state that they manipulate what the congressmen and senators do and how they vote, and I will prove that tonight. So Congress is just as tied into the military-industrial complex as Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and the others are. Who is the main representative in our government of the people? Congress, right? If they own Congress, we know.
Okay, you've seen a good bit of that. I'm going to take it. I think it's to, let's see. I want to say that it was at the maybe it was 2130 when he says, I think he says
we don't have a vote or a voice anymore, and that's the idea. All right, let's go through some of them. They own the intelligence contractors, the defense contractors. We're talking billions of dollars here in revenue that comes from your taxes. The military-industrial complex, about $4.8 million a year is spent by military-industrial complex, the lobbyists, to influence Congress and put money into their PACs, leadership PACs, re-election campaigns, and others, to the tune of $4 or $5 million a year. Huge impact on Congress. There's foreign lobbyists. Saudi Arabia and Israel might as well have a congressional slot on Capitol Hill. They are so influential on our government that they actually have a serious impact on political decisions in Washington. You've got the Federal Reserve, the secret bank that just gave out a couple $1 trillion to some unknown corporation.
Listen close, because it's coming real soon. He's about to tell you that they're all behind digital currencies.
In the military-industrial complex that they won't tell anybody about because their deliberations are secret. With whose money? With our money. So the Federal Reserve is tied in with this. We've got Wall Street.
It showed the Federal Reserve's tied in with this. Look, we have the Federal Reserve, we have the IMF, the Treasury right here.
Wall Street funds all of this, the military-industrial complex. Wall Street is so plugged in to the military-industrial complex and the shadow government. It was Wall Street attorneys that formed the CIA. Wall Street has been in the shadow government and the deep state going back to 1947. So they're a part of the deep state. You've got the central banks connected to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is connected to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank because the CFR's stated goal was eventually and still is an economic global government. And they're merging through special drawing rights into digital currency eventually.
Did you catch that? through SDRs into digital currencies. That is the goal. Okay. Now, I'm now going to, and that was Kevin Shipp. Go check him out. Now, the next guy that they did in this video that I want to show you is a guy that's from the BIS. I want to show you what the BIS is. Our mission is to serve central banks in their pursuit of monetary and financial stability, to foster international cooperation to those areas and act as bank for central banks. This is a former BIS official is what I think it is. Established in 1930, the BIS is owned by 62 central banks, representing countries from around the world that together account for about 95% of the world GDP. Its head office is in Basel, Switzerland, and it has two representative offices in Hong Kong and in Mexico City. All right, so let's see what this guy from the BIS has to say. I believe it was around 20. There we go, right in here.
This figure who again has come out, he's spoken truth, and I just find it absolutely fascinating, and I believe you will find fascinating yourselves.
By the way, I love Curtis's accent. It's cool.
What you are about to hear again from a credible source. So I will show you this clip.
You are pioneering precisely because you did transmute that experience into some beautiful chemistry.
But the problem is it's still there. It's daily there. And people, I don't know, people are not aware. People have to wake up.
Let's talk about the soul contract. Let's talk about the soul compact and covenant that we engage.
You know, with this third sample, search for it. All the world leaders are already calling for it for many years. The new world order, their new world order. That's the program. It's combined with the finance system to have us completely slaved, without of cash, all digital, to put us in a digital cave, completely, deciding if they like you or not.
Ah, but they never thought about cryptocurrencies and blockchain, did they?
They did.
You believe that they're engineering all of that? You don't?
Remember, folks, while he's talking, remember this. We've been sold on the idea that, oh, this Bitcoin, all these cryptocurrencies, this is for counterfeiting and money laundering. Well, exactly the opposite is true. This is all for the purpose of being able to track everything. Okay? You will be able to track everything. Now, yeah, okay, like I said before, there are parts of that that are bad. But if you see it for the investment side of this, you can make it good for you because it's coming whether you like it or not. XRP represents the one thing that is very good out of this if you see it. I'm just trying to make you see it.
I don't believe that is a natural human organic response to central banking and fiat. Is crypto and smart contracts is our way of throwing this devil off the back?
Even on the internet you can find a white paper from the NSA from 1995. They were already describing everything you have now in present, like cryptocurrencies. It's the first and the second generation of cryptocurrencies. They have a lot of backdoors. They are not free. I'm very happy and aware that step by step, people start to choose different.
Right.
But about the cryptocurrencies, it was all created by secret services. Now, in the third and the fourth generations, people are taking the tools to use it in a positive way.
Very good.
So there are positive things going, but my reaction was more in the direction of in general, the masses, the billions of people.
Yes.
Who are still have no clue.
And just follow whatever.
Yeah, and they have no clue about anything because they are children. They have the inner child and they have children of their own. And we have to take care of this. with all the people who are able to do this.
Ronald,
Now, that's all I'm going to show you from that. But I just want to hammer that point home, folks. You know, he made a good point there at the end. All of us we have children, and we have an inner child, and so to accept that there are things going on that are bigger than we believe, it's easier to close your mind off to these things, and maybe that's what I did since 2018. But it's not closed anymore. I see exactly what this is, and I want you to see it because there's an opportunity in this if you see it. And remember, if you're listening to me and all this is coming together in your mind, you are less than 1% of the population. And you could very well be as Hodor, that did the Hodor blog, said in one of his blogs, one of my favorite lines, he said, there's a very good chance that the 1% the 1% of XRP holders at some point become the 1% in the traditional sense of the word. In other words, the top 1% of wealth in the entire world. Now, one point I want to make is that everyone like Hodor or this Rachel Lee or Tony Valentino, all these people who have kind of enlightened us over the last 2 or 3 years, most of them are not around anymore. I find that interesting. That's all I'll say about that. Okay, now, moving along, in that video, he told you that you could go back to 1995. I think he was wrong on the year. It's 1996, if this is the same thing. October 31st, 1996. This is from the National Security Agency, NSA, Office of Information Security Research and Technology, How to Make a Mint, the Cryptography of Anonymous Electronic Cash. This is an entire paper with drawings on how this would all work. It was done they were talking about it back in 1996. Now, I just told you, Rachel Lee is one of the people that is not online anymore. There's a Twitter account here. She follows me, but no longer around. Now look at this. If the G20 this is a part of her thread from back in 2018 in August. If the G20 was ready to roll out the GPFI in 2009, to me this meant the planning must have begun earlier, so I decided to check the Bilderberg Group attendance, and the NSA director at the time attended in 2008, mid-financial crisis year, 2009, report back on blockchain release. Records related to former NSA Director Keith Alexander's attendance at Bilderberg meetings in 2008, 2009, 2011. And then this is George Bush. It says he was Keith Alexander or whatever. All right, so let's move down through this thread. It was his meeting in 2011 that caught my attention. Was this when the NSA discovered OpenCoin, which OpenCoin was before Ripple. It was OpenCoin. OpenCoin is being a potential lead project in developing a new monetary system. David Schwartz, former NSA, was hired at OpenCoin in 2011. There's that, and then we've got this, and then this. This is Keith Alexander that heads the NSA, Bilderberg 2011, right? Let's see what we have next. John, yes, sir, yes, sir. And I will just read something else about you really quickly. It say David was developing encrypted cloud storage and messaging systems for organizations like the CNN and the NSA. Woo. When he discovered Bitcoin in 2011 and soon became active in the Bitcoin community as Joel Katz. By the way, do you remember Joel Katz from back in the day? In late 2011, he was hired by Jed McCaleb to design and implement what is now the Ripple network. Wow, you know, David, a lot of people who love Bitcoin, the Bitcoin fanatics, some of them would say, wow, you went over from Bitcoin to Ripple, you're a trader. Now, what would you say to those people? So it's like an interview with David Schwartz. And it says, we know that David Schwartz holds one of the earliest patents on this tech. Was the 2011 NSA Bilderberg attendance a coincidence, or perhaps seeking permission to engage with OpenCoin? All right. Now, right here. So after the NSA Bilderberg attendance, David Schwartz joins OpenCoin. Arthur Brito, NSA ? Is recruited, and then Chris Larson. Notice as soon as the XRP tokens are created in 2013, in come the Bilderberg associated investors. Jed is forced out. Bad reputation, question mark. Now, Bilderberg associated investors, I went over those yesterday. One is Google CEO or co-founder or whatever. One was Santander, and the other was Peter Thiel, who was a co-founder of PayPal. They are all currently on the steering committee for the Bilderberg Group. Now, folks, again, I know this all sounds conspiratorial, but wait until I let you see Ripple's own words to show you they have never lied to you. They've always told you the truth. More interesting was the fact that Ripple director Susan Athey became an advisor to OpenCoin 1 month after her Bilderberg attendance with high-level monetary institutions like the IMF. This Bilderberg meeting was highly financial in nature. 2 months later, OpenCoin equals Ripple. See this? Let's see who else was there. Christine Lagarde. June 5th, 2013, we showed you that Susan Athey was there yesterday. And then she becomes a board member. And there's the little thing. I showed you that yesterday. As stated in the beginning, this may just be a long shot theory, but the patterns usually don't lie. I know blockchain tech was not released by one shy guy named Satoshi Nakamoto. Too much of a coincidence. That it was launched just when a new monetary system is needed. I've landed at the same place. Now, for those of you that haven't seen it, this is David Schwartz's patent. Now remember, the NSA is working on this in 1996, right? David Schwartz puts the patent out in 1988. That says David Schwartz Enterprises, U.S. Patent Office. Now, this is David Schwartz in his own words. Now, some of the videos I'm about to show you, you've seen, but when you see them after what I just showed you, it puts it all in a good context for you, and it all makes sense, and it helps drive my point home that, folks, these guys have told you the truth from day one.
To crypto assets and then to Ripple.
I guess I discovered Bitcoin in 2011. I had been working on cryptography for secure messaging, cloud storage for customers like the NSA and various governments and military organizations. And when I first saw Bitcoin, it was one of those things where you could almost call it love at first sight. Like, I saw the technology and I thought, wow, there's really something here. And I wanted to learn everything I possibly could about it. And I found the communities, and I looked at the source code. And I happened to be a little bit lucky that there was a problem at the time. This was just around the rise of mining pools.
And then there's the ominous music. We showed you that yesterday. Then there was this. They've told you.
What if a private sector entity, a large company with a large network of users, has a digital currency? So we're looking.
That's already popped out, and I think we had pretty bipartisan concerns on that one.
So that's why we're doing all this work. We understand I would say Libra was something of lit a bit of a fire. This is something we've been focused on digital currencies for a couple decades.
Couple of decades they've been working on digital currencies. Now, I'll keep showing this on this channel because it's from Stewart XRP. I will keep showing you this because this is when it really this week clicked for me, all of this. This is Greg Kidd, who was one of the first investors in Ripple.
You kind of take that for granted. That's the way Airbnb got started and Uber. They weren't at that time, regulated industries. But generally, things in financial services, you got to be regulated. So when I came to Ripple, that was a new blockchain. That was the second thing after Bitcoin. The first month, we went to Treasury to explain what we were doing. So we didn't operate under the illusion that we would never be regulated and we would never have to ask permission. So it's finding that balance between doing something that's really innovative, but if you want to go mainstream and you're successful, you're going to run up against rules and regulations, guys with guns and badges.
Yeah.
So
you don't replace Swift unless you're on the team with the guys with the guns and the badges. Okay? That is a conclusion that must be drawn in this, folks. You've got to be on the team with the guys that have the guns and the badges if you're going to replace the monetary system, which is what replacing Swift means. And you heard my interview yesterday where this guy heard directly at a banking conference from someone who would know that, and she said point blank that Ripple is about to replace wire transfers and SWIFT. And now, remember, Brad Garlinghouse, now this is an interesting point I want to make in this video. If there's one thing that Brad Garlinghouse has told you over and over and over, he has told you that we thought that working with regulators was the only way to go, because this was going to be done from within and not from without. And so this finally clicked with me as well. Brad Garlinghouse has been telling us that they worked with regulators from the beginning, but he didn't say that they worked with regulators. There's a difference between working with regulators and working with regulators, as in commissioned or co-opted by the government early on. That's the conclusion that I've drawn. But as I've said, they've told you the truth if you could piece it together from day one.
Do you think that you would like to see from financial institutions and governments, knowing that you work with both very closely?
I love this question, in part because I think it is so important that the industry is proactive in engaging regulators. I think many in the industry are quick to blame regulators. As one manifestation of this, Ripple brought together about 30-plus central banks from around the world. I think it was 2 weeks ago, yesterday or the day before. My time zones are screwed up. But in New York City, we had a private meeting where it was, 20% it was talking about what Ripple is doing and socializing with central banks from around the world what Ripple is doing. But 80% of it was letting the central banks talk to each other. We have found that when we're meeting one-on-one with central banks, that we're having a lot of one-on-one conversations. They want to understand what other central banks are thinking about blockchain. What are they thinking about crypto? What are they thinking about the risks, the pros and cons to some of the evolutions? And so for us, it was, let's create a catalyst to bring them together and talk about it. And yes, we were one participant, but it was important, frankly, it was a private event because I think it was easier to be open and direct about what's going on around the world. But I think we all should need to be proactive. And I think those that like to throw the regulators under the bus and say they're stymieing innovation, they're slowing things down, to your point, they provide a critical piece to the stability and mitigating fraud. And these are things that matter, whether it's blockchain or other digital assets, that they matter.
What do you?
So it's all about. The whole theme has been all about we work with regulators. Now, back to this. Oh, that's just you're just conspiracy. Now, probably one of the most illustrative things when I say that Ripple has told you the truth from day one. One of the things that blew my mind the first time I heard it the most was what I'm about to show you. But even with this, and even with this type of terminology, Ripple has been honest with you from day one. It's that our brains have mine at least had a hard time really accepting that this is exactly what my gut was telling me that this was. And this is my final piece that I really want to show you. You remember when you heard that BIS guy, he said that we're talking about a new world order. Every time I hear the word new world order, the IMF pops into my head. This is what they have wanted for a long time. This is what we're talking about. That's what this is all about. It is, folks, and I know that sounds crazy, but it sounded even crazier when I heard Brad Garlinghouse himself say it, so you hear him say it.
That Ripple could take over SWIFT one day.
Well, I think what we're doing and executing on a day-by-day basis is, in fact, taking over SWIFT, in that we've now signed up well over 100 banks. Some of the largest SWIFT-enabled banks in the world are now using Ripple's technology. Just last week, we saw a remittance company who's using Ripple's technology. They reduced the price per transaction to their consumers from $20 per transaction to $2 per transaction, and they saw an 800% increase in usage overnight. That's the type of dynamic that SWIFT isn't able to support that we're able to address right now, and that's something we saw just in the last couple of weeks. So we certainly want to see banks succeed in this new world order, and take advantage of these technologies. To the extent we can work with SWIFT to do that, then that's great.
Who says new world order that's with a startup company? Who says that? Only the guy who's on the team with the people that have the badges and the guns. Only that guy gets to be a part of that. I think Brad Garlinghouse is the perfect face man. And I think that he's done great. And I think he's a nice guy on top of it. I think all the people at Ripple are solid, nice people. Now, I want to talk directly to you, the people out there who are like me and who think that XRP is their chance for a better life. Okay? And I want to tell you, I'm not an investment advisor before I tell you this. Here's what the public has not, first, the general public understands nothing about what I just explained. They also, less than 1% of the population even knows what Ripple or XRP is. That is what's so exciting about where you and I sit. But let me tell you what the general public, even that knows about digital assets, has not truly accepted yet. They will, and when they do, it'll probably be too late for them, and it will have made you and I wealthy thousands of times over. Here's what they don't understand. They don't understand what Glenn Hutchins said in that video that I've played many times for you. They don't understand what he meant when he said the prices on CoinMarketCap, all that, that's a distraction. The value's in the protocol. Here's where the disconnect is. They don't understand that during the .com boom, you were only able to get in the game if you were one of three things. If you wanted to make money off of whatever .com stock that was going to go public, there was about three ways. You were either a venture capitalist, you either created a company, or you were able to get stock options as a wealthy, or not stock options. Or there's four ways. Or you got stock options in a company you went to work for. And the other way is if you were a high net worth investor and you got some pre-IPO stocks that were going IPO. Those are really the ways. Well, this is what people don't get quite yet. They're about to get it, and when they do, it'll be too late for them. They're not going to make the real money. You and I are. What they don't understand yet is what Glenn Hutchins said, is that the real value's in the protocol. The money that will be made off of the people who place their bets on the right protocol, right? He called it the Ripple protocol, but XRP goes hand in hand with all this. But it's been laid out twice, okay, that I've seen, that I remember. The first, and I'm going to show you this again, that this is not some Mickey Mouse company. This is Fidelity. Fidelity Labs is their wing, okay? They put out the investment hypothesis. They've been working on this behind the scenes. This company manages over $7 trillion, and they were one of the first to jump into this game. You need to understand that this is what's coming. We're able this time to invest in the protocol. During the .com, it was HTTP, TCP, IP. But you couldn't invest in the protocol itself. This time it's different. You can invest in the protocol itself. That's where the huge opportunity is. If you've been able to piece all this together, you would see it, and I'm going to show it. The reason I'm bringing this back up is because Corey Johnson came out and said the same thing, and he used to be Ripple's spokesman. And I'm going to show you his video next, and then we're going to end this, my longest video of all time. Here we go. This is the investment thesis. This is what Fidelity has been working on and understands, and you need to understand it.
So now I'm going to talk about the investment hypothesis. Now, if I was doing this a couple of years ago, the investment hypothesis would be talking about people on the so-called edge, millennials, people who are crypto anarchists who are really into this. But this has really changed, and we've seen this from our institutional clients, particularly on the family office end of things. People are becoming more sophisticated as they realize and understand and go deep that there is this new digital asset that cannot be changed, their investment potentials. Last year, Coinbase did $1 billion in revenue. Circle did about $2 billion every month in trades. And so we're now in an era of not just talking about the investment hypothesis, but companies are building real business models off this. So what is the investment hypothesis? I want to go back a little to what I talked about with the web. With the web, we invested in companies that built off these protocols. Now, likewise, if it was 1994 and I came to you and said, I have this incredible investment, it's called HTTP, you can buy into it, and any company that builds value off of it will impact the price of HTTP. First of all, you'd think I was crazy again, because what is HTTP? What is a protocol? But you would also not be able to do that. So instead, what we have in the internet era of investing is we try and invest in companies. Pets.com, not so good. Amazon, good. Google, good, etc. Well, what blockchain investing offers is the potential to flip this model. And instead of focusing on applications or companies building off applications off of protocols, you can invest in the protocol layer itself. So you can buy an Ethereum token in the hopes or thoughts or vision that there are going to be hundreds, maybe thousands of companies that are going to build new products and services off the Ethereum token, bringing back value to that token. This is one way to look at the investing.
This is what you needed to see right here, because I believe what you're staring right in the face is XRP becoming the global standard, this protocol that Ripple has created. Okay, now when that happens, you just do the math on what that means for you as a potential investor. Now, don't just take Fidelity's word for it. This is a guy that worked at Ripple. I want you to listen very close, because I'm ending this video right after this. Listen close to it. This is Corey Johnson, who was the spokesman for Ripple.
I want to bring in Corey Johnson, XRP managing member. Corey, it's good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
We have been seeing some interesting action in cryptocurrencies amidst this stock market sell-off, right? That they have not been a consistent sort of safe haven, for lack of a better term, place for investors to go. They haven't always been rising when stocks have been going down. What do you make of the recent action that we've seen?
I think to some degree it shows a maturity of the asset class, which is painful for those who've been longtime holders of Ether or XRP or Bitcoin or what, pick your crypto asset. But I think that, look, in times of stress in the markets, the real serious stress like we're seeing right now, a source of cash is a source of cash. And I think that you've seen that where people have just been selling things to get a hold of cash, whether it's because they're long on margin or they just want to put that money to use, or they're just scared. But I think that, as crypto matures as an asset, I think you're going to see it behave like other assets. And when the time is to get out of assets, crypto is yet another asset. I think you're going to see people leave. I also think, though, that there's a sort of big fundamental issue here, which is that even today, 10 years after the creation of Bitcoin, crypto is still a concept more than it's a practiced technology being to use. And I think that there's a real significant difference between the notion of blockchain as something that people trade with hopes that it'll have a greater value someday, and functional blockchain, which barely exists in the world. There are very few companies that are doing a lot with the technology of blockchain and really putting value into these things that have already achieved great value through speculation.
Yeah, Corey, Dan Roberts here. Good to have you back on our airwaves. Hey, separately from the debate right now about, safe haven or not, and is it uncorrelated or correlated to stocks, it seems to me it's just uncorrelated and behaves on its own. But separate from that discussion, you do have so many people in the crypto world, and I'm glad you just alluded to it, who still say, well, its best use case is as a store of value. It's an investment. They've moved away from trying to talk about what will the killer app be, and now they just say the killer app is the investment itself. It's a store of value. Now, we can argue about whether it's been a store of value, but I'm glad you bring up functional blockchains, because one kind of excitement around, say, Libra is maybe that will be what brings crypto in general into the next phase, into its use for commerce. So what do you
Listen very closely, because here it comes.
Make of the potential for Libra, and of course also another example is Ripple, the company where you used to work, that is putting XRP to work for international bank transfers. So what might be the functions coming up separately from just a store of value?
So, and I'm completely biased because, yes, I did have some happy times at Ripple, and I still own equity in the company. So I think it's a great thing that they're actually finding some use of this blockchain technology and of XRP in particular. But I do think that, it's a very peculiar technology in that in the creation of the technology, Satoshi figured out a way to attach value to it. If you could have attached value to TCP/IP when it was first created, and you could have bought the packets with hope that someday they would invent, I don't know, Instagram, It was quite a long ways between the invention of TCP/IP and the creation of all the things that the internet could do and the packetized networks could do. I think you see the same thing with the technology of blockchain. So yes, so the movement of money is an obvious thing. Libra wants to do that. Ripple's doing that today with XRP, helping move money very quickly, very cheaply for existing financial institutions, whether it's companies in the remittance business or banks and what have you. But I think you're going to see a lot of other things, and I think fairly soon, because companies have been working on this for so many years, but they're just not there yet. You're going to start to see the emergence of the use of the technology, and I think that's when the real value will ascribe to cryptocurrencies.
I want to.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I wanted to make sure I give credit here. That's you can see that video on Bank XRP and give him a subscribe as well. I wanted to finish this video with this from the Joker at Kia Crypto. Remember those days when Bitcoin pumped 500%, 1,000% in a couple of months, when XRP pumped 3,000%? Those days are not doomed. They are coming. 2020 is full of unthinkable events. I don't think he could be more right. Totally 1,000%. I don't think you've seen nothing yet, as they say. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button. And tell your friends and family that 2020 is full of unthinkable events. Thank you for listening.